Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the CXO show. My name is Swapnil Kamat. I am the CEO of upGrad for Business. The unusual excitement that you're seeing in my voice is largely because our guest today is part of a company that I admire more than possibly any other company on this planet. And this company's product is a product that I love so much that if I ever got a tattoo of a brand on my body, it would be of this particular company. And the company that I'm talking about is Coca-Cola. And I have Dhanpat Jain with me, whose introduction I will do very, very quickly. Dhanpat, are you excited about being on this show with me? Be
Oh
honest
yeah,
and
I
tell
think
me.
your excitement and your energy levels are so contagious, Swapnil. I think I'm also having a lot of adrenaline rush now,
Very good, very
and
good, very
I
good.
like the statement that you made about the tattoo, and I think I never thought about it in the past, but then yes, this is one organization that actually is a brand that anybody could actually tattoo it on their
Absolutely,
arms.
absolutely. I couldn't tell you. And you know, my excitement was the same when I came and visited your office.
Yes, yes,
And
yes, I do
I,
remember that.
I told you that for the first time in my entire life, I went to a client office and I asked my client to take a picture of me in that office because you'll have such a lovely
Thank you.
Coca-Cola truck there, which I wish
Happy
I
to.
could share a picture
Oh, I
of
could
that.
change my background to that if you want.
Yeah, no, I'll do it. I'll ask my editor to really put it in the middle of this so that you can actually see that picture, which
Yeah,
I was so happy
yeah,
to take. And I also told you that I have tons of this is the favorite drink after water,
yeah.
and I always have this in my house at all points of time because I love it so much,
Very happy.
and it's absolutely fantastic. So, as my just to show my love for this brand, and just
Super,
I thought I
super.
would just
One pop.
have this drink while we do this conversation. So,
Lovely.
cheers to my favorite drink of Coca-Cola
Yes,
Zero. And yes,
yes.
Kinley is a lovely brand as well, but nothing can come close to this
I
beauty.
finished my morning dose of Coke, so I thought I'll go with water now.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've
I remember me stealing one from my CEO's cabin for
yes,
one can for you because it was available in our cooler here that day. Uh,
yes,
and I think we are more than glad to share happiness, and that's the motto of the organization, spreading
yeah.
happiness. Uh,
Yeah. And Dhanpat, I know we're going totally off track, but I'm going to let this conversation of us go totally off track because of my love for your company. So, yesterday I actually, and since you spoke about sharing, happiness, right? And I'll tell you what that actually means, and I'm not exaggerating. Like yesterday in my family, it was a bad day. There was some personal tragedy that happened.
oh, oh,
Um, um, and I ended my day with a Coke Zero because it was a tough day, and that little joy in your life, right? That a favorite drink can bring, right, in your life. That Coke Zero, when I had it with a lot of ice yesterday at the end of a very rough day that I had, brought that happiness, brought that joy to my life, right?
happy to know that. So,
And in the end, these small little things we
yeah,
sometimes
I
don't take.
hope things are fine.
I'll share what happened offline with you, but
Okay.
but
Okay.
but
Yeah,
just
I heard that from Mahin. Yeah, I understand. So good,
the
Swapnil, that you had a
yeah.
Coke at the end of the day, which gives you that small bit of happiness. And
It
if that
genuinely
brings a
did.
smile, that's I think we have done our job well.
It genuinely did because I was in my room, in the comfort of my room, and I would just wanted to de-stress a little, and that was my go-to after a lovely meal, and it made me feel so good, like given how rough the day was. But that's the kind of impact that you'll have, and that's how the impact that I hope you'll continue to have, as
We will.
being the most popular and well-known brand in the entire world, right?
Thank you.
It's
Thank
There's
you.
not one person that doesn't know. So now a little more about you. I'm going to do a quick introduction and then we'll jump into the business end of this conversation. So Dhanpat Jain is the National Head of Leadership Development at Hindustan Coca Beverages Private Limited. Mr. Jain comes with a rich experience of over 21 years in talent management, change management, training and development, organizational development, and employee engagement across organizations such as Reliance, MTS, Staffé, and more. He holds an executive MBA from the Great Lakes Institute of Management, a PG diploma in business administration from the Institute of Technology and Management, and a BCom from Madras University. Mr. Jain's expertise extends from strategy and leadership to training, product designing, and team management. A keen analytical mind helps him excel in driving organizational improvements and improving best practices. His proficiency lies in setting up HR interventions related to learning and development, talent management, career progression, planning, and competency mapping. In recognitions of his outstanding contributions, Mr. Jain has received several prestigious awards, including the Pan India Talent Development Award in 2011 and 13. While being associated with Hindustan Coca Beverages, he has recently been honored with the Inclusive Practices Award by Great Places to Work in April 2023 and the ISS Leap Vault CLO Award in August 2019. His colleagues commend Mr. Jain for being an avid learning spirit. His creativity and has always a focus on the bigger picture. Fondly known as DJ, he is described as a warm hearted, genuine leader and an exceptional networker. Beyond his role in his corporate realm, he's also recognized as a talented theater artist. So that's a small but lovely introduction of
Wow.
DJ.
Thanks. I got reminded of a lot of things that I
Yeah.
used to do in the past. And yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
bringing that
yeah.
up, Swapnil. Thank you
I
for the
wouldn't have
introduction.
imagined you to be a theater person, but that's interesting.
Yes,
That
yes.
was your background. Tell
That's,
me,
yeah.
on an interesting note, does your theater background help in any way as an HR leader?
I think, that's the thing that actually got me into this business
Okay,
of
okay,
being a trainer.
okay.
I was always a theater lover. I used to be on the stage always during my school and college days. And I
Yeah.
think during my days of MBA,
Mm,
one friend of mine, a colleague of mine, noticed that I have a good voice and a good stage presence. So he said, "Why don't you try your hands on being a trainer sometime?" I said, "What is that?"
mm,
And this was
mm,
something new to me. And those days I was
mm,
just selling photocopiers door
mm,
to door. And
mm,
and that's the day when I realized that, yeah, I think I can stand up and talk in front of 20 people
mm.
doing training, and that
Yeah,
can give me money,
got it,
unlike theater, which I used to do free of cost.
got it,
So
got it.
so that's where the whole journey started. And I think for a trainer, I think truly, if you have an acting skill,
Yeah.
it's an added advantage
Yeah,
always.
yeah,
It
yeah.
helps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's so interesting because, like I discussed with you during our meeting earlier, I used to train very actively. So when I founded this company, I was first just a freelance individual trainer before we built it up. And one of the reasons why I could do that, I guess, relatively effortlessly, because I had a lot of background in emceeing and comparing events and stuff like that when I was in college. Right. And so that transition from being able to MC or compare an event to being able
Yeah.
to train, you pick out so many skills from that domain into this domain that makes it quite easy.
Agree.
And I'm sure one of the skills that you picked up was storytelling, right?
Yes.
Which you need
Yes.
to do in both domains.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And the more I come into training, the more I deliver programs. Sometimes I feel that there is so much more to learn. And
Mm,
storytelling is just not an art or a skill. There's a science behind it,
mm,
and there's more to it. I think I'm just a tip of the iceberg yet.
yeah.
That there are a lot of people who I have seen being one of better trainers than me, great storytellers than me. I have
Mm,
few in my vicinity, in my own organization,
mm,
whom I actually look up to. And I'm
mm,
sure, Swapnil, you being from the same background as me, and
mm,
having to be on stage many times,
yeah.
storytelling is not as easy as it looks like
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
when it comes to training.
It's absolutely, it's very, very difficult thing. It requires a
Yes,
lot of skill and a lot of practice over over
absolutely.
many, many, many years. And
Yes,
the interesting part when you said, I have a long way to go. I like this whole idea where, the more you know about something, the more you feel that you don't know about it, right? And there's a very nice quote that says, wisdom is knowing how much you don't know, right? So I think that's the ultimate form of a person being wise, just his realization that he doesn't know much
yeah,
about
yeah,
anything,
yeah, yeah.
right? So yeah, I think all of
We,
us have
we
a
we as trainers keep preaching, that learning is never ending, learning is continuous, then what about us? We also have to accept and imbibe that first.
Yeah. It's so, again, I didn't plan to ask you this, but this conversation is so interesting that in my experience, since we do a lot of trainer shortlisting as well and empaneling right into our fold, I have often seen that the best facilitators are also the biggest learners at all points of time, right? The best facilitators are taking a constant effort to learn, and that learning could be in the form of, taking up courses, reading books, taking feedback, right?
Yes.
And, DJ, I can just tell you another thing in my experience. The learners in your classroom, right, can often sense whether a trainer or facilitator is full of himself, or whether a facilitator or trainer really wears a learning hat himself, right? I think that the audience can really sense that, and very rarely will a facilitator who truly wears a learning hat will be deemed as arrogant or full of himself or herself by the facilitators. They'll never do that, right? And we pick up a lot of these things through these subtle cues as well, right? I don't know what your thoughts on this is.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because if I truly believe that the success of any program or an intervention is how much my participants or the audience enjoyed it and how much they took away from it. And I think it's a reflection of the trainer's engagement, the trainer's ability to keep the audience engaged. If the audience is sleeping, it's not because they had a good lunch, it's because the trainer is not engaging enough. So it's and the trainer also gets his energy from the audience. It's vice versa. It's the chicken and egg story. But I feel it starts with the trainer first. The trainer has to build that momentum, and then it's taken forward by the audience. It's an analogy that I've been building over a period of time, and I've learned this from hard ways too. I've seen programs bombing, I've seen programs being super successful by the same trainer, and I can easily see the difference between why it has happened in both the cases.
Yeah. So interesting. I'm going to dive into a difficult first question for you, right? If you had to choose of the many things that makes an excellent corporate facilitator or trainer, and I'm through this conversation, I'm going to use these terms interchangeably, right? If you had to choose, what are the three things that makes a corporate trainer or facilitator really effective at doing his job? What would those three things be? And if you want to share a fourth or fifth, you're open to that, but what to start with would those three things be?
So I think these needs is a very nice question, Swapnil, because I have been on both the sides. I've been a consultant myself, or external trainer to organizations. I've been a captive L&D head. So I've seen both the sides, and I feel that the needs have been changing and it have been evolving. If you ask me in today's parlance, in the last 1 or 2 years, I feel that of course, there are some things that have been always existent on the top priority for me, for any trainer. They have to know the business that they are working with, right? They need to know what brings in the bread and butter for the organization that they are going to work for. Even if I'm a captive trainer or I'm a consultant, I better know Coca-Cola is in the business of selling Coca-Cola, and everybody in this company either sells or help sells. So if you are coming from outside, you also better help me sell this Coca-Cola. Don't give me gyan just for the sake of it. Relate to me, connect with me. I think if that is something that the homework is done by the trainer, and if that's the groundwork that's done by the trainer, that's the first need I have in any trainer. I keep telling all my partners that if you are going to bring a trainer into my organization, content is secondary. I know you can build a lot of content, and I can help you build the content myself because I will be sitting with you on the storyboarding. But if the trainer is not up to the mark, and I say up to the mark, is not able to talk the language that I wish him to talk or her to talk, I think I will not be able to work with you guys. So be careful in the choice of trainers that you make when you work with us, right? So that's the first need, being business savvy, understanding the business like the way you are a owner of the business. And if you're able to talk that language, it works for me. Two, of course, like you said, the facilitation and the storytelling skills to engage the audience. Even if your content is not great, sometimes, Swapnil, if you're a great storyteller, if you are a person who can bring some interesting anecdotes from outside or from your own experience, it helps engage with the audience, and audience actually will buy from what you say. And the third is observation. And that I'm saying because things are changing very dynamically. What I would have done the same training 10 years back may not be relevant today. But I need to keep observing what my audience wants, what my organization wants. I need to
Yeah.
keep evolving and learning that. So
Yeah.
be a constant learner through way of observation, through way of listening, reading books,
Yeah.
understanding from the outside world what's happening in the business,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then contextualize your program to that rather than giving the same old modules and sessions that you were giving in the past.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
these are the three things, and there are 4 5, I would say, digitally savvy,
Mm.
move out of the PowerPoint presentation,
Mm.
and use your own body and your words to be more powerful than the
Yeah.
presentation itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This
So
is so
that's
much. Yeah.
yeah.
I think so much of good insight, DJ there. My thought on this, right? I think
Yeah.
what you shared is extremely relevant, right? I think when we were building this particular enterprise, the one of the things that we wanted to do is ensure that almost every facilitator that went out and represented us actually was involved in business first before he became a trainer, right? So he had some context of how hard actually, say, doing the selling is, right? And you can't give them exposure to every industry at all points of time, right? But at least having the wherewithal of knowing ki bhai bechna mushkil hai, yeah, actually getting stuff done internally is quite tough, right? So until they had that real life work experience, and if they were just a trainer from the very beginning, that would be a big red flag for us, right? But they
Very
had all this experience, then became a trainer. I think those kind of trainers are
absolutely.
often very good. And I think one of the reasons why I was a decent facilitator when I started off was I had a lot of context of business, coming from a business family and really working really early in my life, right? Starting work. So I could relate a lot of these things quite easily. Another point based on what you said is, I also think that, especially when an organization is partnering with external learning consultants, right? There, it has to be a lot more collaborative than often that process
Absolutely.
is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's so, disappointing for me sometimes as to how, companies and learning consultants don't really work as partners together, right? And often it seems like, the company is sitting on a high horse and saying, hey, I'm the boss, I'm paying you, now you need to do all this stuff for me. And really, it needs to be a collaborative process that actually those partnerships need to last for years, right? Because you need to build that expertise right at the start, know each other so well. So, and then for years together, you can kind of leverage that particular partnership, but that doesn't happen, unfortunately. I don't know what
Yeah.
your two
No, no.
bits.
So I was actually thinking about it the way we work with our partners, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
interestingly, the first word that came to my mind was the word vendor.
yeah.
And I think that has gone out of our dictionary for a long time
Mm,
now.
mm,
I came into this organization 5 years ago in Coca-Cola, and I felt that yeah, there is the procurement team that sits in the finance department,
mm.
and they work with a lot of
Of course.
suppliers. So they
Yeah,
use the word vendor very often, and that's the common word used. It's a
yes,
nomenclature.
yes,
But
yes.
having said that, I think there's a lot of respect that I bring to table because you guys are all knowledge workers, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
come with a lot of research data. You come with a lot of
yeah,
knowledge from outside.
yeah,
You do a lot of hard work to bring people from outside to work with you from different
yeah,
industries, like the way you said that the trainers are not trainers, they are actually business guys.
yeah,
So when you are doing that for me, I think
yeah,
you're partnering with me in my
yeah,
journey.
yeah,
So that
yeah,
word partner is the most critical word, I think. And
yeah,
have I been respecting the word partner to the T? Yes, I
yeah,
think I've done justice.
yeah.
And as an organization, we believe, like the first statement you said, "Paisa jo hum denge, kaam jo tum karoge," right?
Mm,
Kaam jo hum
mm,
mangenge. Yeah, that
mm,
is true to all organizations. At the end
yeah,
of the day, I'm a businessman. I will always
yeah,
give you the money, and I will need the. Uh,
yeah.
but then,
Output.
what am I accountable for? That's the
Yeah,
first question. My
yeah,
KPI is to deliver something great in the
yeah,
organization,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And if I can get that done through somebody, why
yeah,
shouldn't I partner with that person and get it
yeah,
done
yeah, yeah,
respectfully,
yeah,
rather than saying that it's your work against my work? No, it's
yeah,
it's
yeah,
us together.
yeah.
I
True,
completely agree
absolutely.
with you,
Yeah,
Swapnil.
yeah, yeah,
Completely
yeah. I
agree with
think
you.
that is,
Most of my programs in this company, I think I've only partnered. I've not done this as a consultant in the past, where
yeah,
I have had tough time with some of the of course, those were organizations which were very orthodox,
yeah,
also, which I worked with in the past. The new age corporations today do respect that.
yeah,
And we personally at Coca Cola believe that everybody, whether it's a, third party vendor,
yeah,
a partner,
yeah,
anybody, they
yeah,
are part of our family. Yeah, come
yeah,
on.
yeah,
We want everybody to be like Coke, and like the way
Yeah.
you are already a fan of Coke, we want everybody to be a fan of Coke. But they
Yeah.
can be only a fan of Coke, not just because of a product, but because
Yeah.
of the people that you work with, right? So today,
Absolutely.
Swapnil may at the end of the day say, I love Coke, but I don't like the organization. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want that to go out in my market.
Yeah. 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 I think I
Brand
totally
comes
agree
from
with
there
you.
also, right?
Yep. 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 I think that's a good point. So tell me, I'm going to flip out of the L&D mode and ask you a more macro question and then get back into L&D, right? So from a young person joining any organization today, not necessarily yours, right? And somebody that wants to succeed in their career like you have, because the CXO show is a show that features some of India's most successful professionals. And that's why if you were to advise a young person just joining the workforce as to how they go and see success in their career, what again would your 2 or 3 pieces of advice or suggestion be for that person?
Again, if you had asked a DJ of 10 years old,
Mm,
10 years earlier, it would have been a different game. So
yeah,
I've been speaking in a lot of colleges, as a
yeah,
facilitator, also
yeah,
as a industry expert. And
yeah.
interestingly, I have seen my journey also. I have
Mm,
learned a lot in that. And I
mm,
feel I wouldn't stereotype generations, let me tell
yeah,
you. Today
yeah.
we say Gen Zs expect this, Gen Zs. It was, we also had that. Maybe the percentage of what we wanted was a little lesser or more than what they want.
Mm,
Today,
mm,
today I hear a lot of people that say that, the Gen Z wants instant gratification. They want everything instant, like
mm,
Instagram,
mm.
instant coffee. They don't want the filter coffees of the world.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think, yeah, that could be there. But why would I say that at my age, when I was a youngster,
yeah,
I would have also wanted something like that at that point
yeah,
of time. I used
yeah.
to call it as incentives those days, the
Mm,
short term incentives we used to call it, right?
mm,
Or
mm,
maybe I wanted an Orkut, not an
mm,
Instagram those days,
mm, mm,
which
mm,
was
mm.
instantly communicating with people across the globe.
Yeah,
So I don't think so. It's about the generation stereotyping. It's about
yeah,
uh, uh, in today's world, what is the context? Yeah, the corporations are evolving, the
yeah,
business is evolving, everything is
yeah,
going technology. And
yeah,
upGrad, for example, I'll tell you, your organization itself has evolved a lot.
yeah,
From
yeah,
you were
yeah,
just a certification school and college certification provider, a knowledge
yeah,
provider.
yeah,
You were tied up with a lot of institutes
yeah,
globally. But
yeah,
today you have also gone into a lot of different things. You have
yeah,
blended yourself. You have gone into classroom learning. You have gone
yeah,
into assessments, multiple
yeah,
things.
yeah,
Just like that, the youngsters today need to learn to be resilient.
yeah,
I think building that resilience is very important. Having a strong
correct.
resilience,
Yeah.
not giving up early in their
Mm,
careers,
mm,
fighting, challenging status quo,
yeah,
and that's what probably evolving and progressive organizations would want them to do.
yeah,
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 that's number one. While I say that, a funny story comes to my mind when during our sales days, Swapnil, you would have heard about the elevator pitch, which is
mm,
very popular even today.
mm,
That
mm,
if you have to meet a CEO in an elevator and you just have that 10 floors
mm,
to speak, what will that in 2 minutes you will speak?
mm,
And somebody got that opportunity, and that youngster actually started speaking about the trajectory of the organization,
mm,
except that he pressed the wrong button. He pressed number
mm,
2,
mm.
and he had to get out of that. And the CEO
Yeah,
smiled. The
yeah,
CEO said, okay, good elevator pitch, but you just started. I'm sorry, I don't
yeah,
have that much time.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that is something that the youngsters have to learn, of being resilient.
yeah,
Just don't
yeah.
think that you have pressed the wrong button and you will not get another opportunity. You will get.
Got it,
You
got
will
it.
get
What
a chance
else?
to
What
do.
else? So
The other one
resilience
is
is one
building,
thing that,
building,
yeah,
building, building network. I
yeah,
think networking is one big strong thing today.
yeah,
Maybe I would say that it's just not the LinkedIn of the world that has taught us to network.
mm,
It's from our family that we have learned.
mm,
Being societal,
mm,
being social is very
mm,
important. Yeah,
mm,
not just in your personal life but also in your professional
mm.
life.
Yeah,
That can do wonders for you.
yeah, yeah.
I have had management trainees, GTs joining my organization, asking me these tips, and I've given them that. 4 years later, they come to me and they say, Dhanpat, that was the best tip I've ever got from you. That build
Mm,
your network. Today, because
mm,
of that network, I have visibility and I am growing in my career faster than I could have actually.
very
Yeah,
interesting. Very interesting. Go to your
that's.
third point. Then I'm going to just do a circle around and I'm going
I
to
think
ask
the
you a few
last
more
and the best
questions.
point is
Yeah,
building a personal brand, Swapnil.
yeah,
It's about not just so I'm saying be loyal to the organization, but more than that, be loyal to the role that you play in the organization,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that role should build visibility for you. Be selfish
yeah,
there. Build a
yeah.
personal brand. It'll
Yeah,
take you
yeah,
miles. It'll take you
yeah,
miles.
yeah, yeah. So I think those are excellent points. Lots to talk about, and I'm going to focus a
Yeah,
lot of my conversation around these because I think people can really pick up something from all these 3 points that you spoke about. I don't. Very often I would talk to people about taking ownership, right? And I would say, when you think about company loyalty, don't company loyalty is not about you probably spending your entire
career.
lifetime in one particular organization. It means that till the last day that you're there, do your very best for yourself and the company, right?
True,
And then when
true.
you go to your next company, have that same spirit from day one in that particular company, right?
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
the true loyalty that you can show to yourself and the company, right? Because when
absolutely.
you do your best, it always helps you, it always helps the organization, it always helps the team, always helps the customer, helps just about everyone, right? So I think that's a good definition of loyalty. I want to ask you about this networking thing a little, because a lot of young people have questions around this. So if you
Mhm.
have to tell us, how does one network well? How have you done that in your career? What would your a few tips be around networking? And I'm going to ask you the same question on personal brand resilience, all these amazing
Yeah.
3 points that you laid out.
Sure, 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 sure. So on networking, I think I learned it very early in my career because I was in
Mm,
sales, right?
mm,
And I had a
mm,
very good boss. He said, Dhanpat, there are many types of salespeople.
mm,
And then there are a lot of people who would come in your life who would help you connect with others also.
mm,
But
mm,
then interestingly, he told me there are connectors, there are
mm,
networkers,
mm,
then there are the influencers, right? And he then also helped me understand how do you actually sell in large organizations? How do
mm.
you build that how you navigate into uh,
Correct.
how will a networker help you? How will a connector help you? And I think
Correct.
I personally was a networker. How did I
Mm,
build my network? I think I was a visiting card collector those days,
mm,
and
mhm.
I would not just put it in the visiting card folder and leave it there. I
Yeah.
would actually remember, for example, Swapnil, I met you. I know
Yeah.
you're from upGrad. I know you're a
Yeah.
Coke Zero fan. Tomorrow,
Yeah.
if somebody in my communication team comes and asks me, DJ, we want to video shoot somebody who loves Coke Zero product. Do you know
Mm,
somebody personally? I would say
yeah.
Swapnil.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I should remember that, right?
Mm,
So, and I could remember that only if I've had a conversation with you.
yeah.
So I would then become a networker to help collaborate the organization with my people I know.
Mm,
And
yeah.
maybe in my organization, people ask me, "Hey DJ, do you know someone who is into the supply planning? And this guy
Mm,
must be in sales somewhere. He wouldn't
mm,
even know what supplies and what supply chain
mm,
is." So I
mm,
would actually be networked with them, and I
mm,
would relate that, and then
mm,
I would connect them both, and they both will have their jobs done. I
mm,
What's in it for me? I think it's the personal satisfaction that I get when I am networked. I help people, and today, uh, why am I networked with 4,000 people on LinkedIn, of which I know only 100 people personally? The
mm,
other 3,900 people, I'm only there to help them and support them. There's no
mm,
selfish interest. Those
mm,
4,000 people follow me. I'm happy they follow me, but
yeah.
I'm also accepting their connection request because I feel if somebody is out there looking out for some solution or some support, you just
Mm,
tag them and it works.
mm,
This digital
mm.
world helps.
What a
Otherwise,
lovely way of
those
putting it.
days it wouldn't have worked for me when there was no LinkedIn.
I think it's such a powerful, powerful message. Um, I think earlier when I didn't know what networking was, and I can't really say I am the best at networking, although I know what it means to network. I still wouldn't think I'm the best at networking. But in my opinion, networking, like you mentioned, is just about trying to help people out in whatever small or big way that you can help somebody out, right? And then the principle of reciprocity kicks in, right? Because
It
when you
automatically
help,
comes.
yeah, when you help somebody, and you don't really expect something to immediately come back to you, right? That's a very not a very
And
nice way
it
of
may
doing.
come in a different form altogether. You never know.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
don't know.
It comes in a different form, and for me, just DJ, I think when you help somebody, the best form of returns that you get is the satisfaction of helping someone, right?
Yeah, yeah,
उसके बाद जो मिलता है bonus है. You get what I'm trying to say,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
I personally, Swapnil, sometimes I feel, my dad used to tell if somebody's helped you, you have a gratitude to it. You know,
Mm,
I challenged my dad the other day. If that person
mm,
has helped me, that person
mm,
also should be grateful to me that I asked
mm.
the support from him.
Yeah,
He asked me, why does he have to thank you for that? I said,
yeah,
he will have a good night's sleep because he helped
yeah,
me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel I have a sense of gratitude when I help people.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think the key to networking, a lot of people picture, that they need to go for parties or they need to do this or that, right? And I tell people of
That's additional. That's additional.
that's additional,
That's
correct,
additional.
right? But the best way to network is, try to help people in whatever way that you can help them. And if you keep doing that, you will end up building a very, very good network. And of course, there's a lot of tactical stuff that you can do, after that to, be
Yes.
a better networker in some
Networker.
way. But I think
Very
that's a
true.
very, very, very
Very true.
important. I've seen
Yeah,
people
for some
make a,
people it comes naturally. For some people they learn it
yeah,
the right way. And I think
yeah,
there are organizations that I have heard of, things like
yeah.
BNI and all that.
Yeah. That's okay. So there, I think you gave some great tips on networking. Personal brand, you spoke about that. Build a personal brand, and
Mm,
of course, I'm sure some part of networking again is connected to personal brand. But if you
yes.
had to tell our audience a little something about how to go about building a personal brand, what would your again few pieces of advice or practical tips be?
I think, Swapnil, again, I'll quote an example between you and me.
Mm,
How do I remember Swapnil?
mm,
What did Swapnil do differently that day?
mm, yeah.
Yeah, that actually makes me remember Swapnil Kamat as a
Mm,
person. I
mm,
think Swapnil carried himself well.
mm,
He came out to be a very informal professional.
mm,
He connected to me the way I would love to connect.
mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm,
And why should Swapnil do that? So that
mm,
Swapnil is on top of the mind and there is a
correct,
visibility that he's created for himself, right?
correct,
I think
correct.
that the word that people use nowadays, it's called executive presence, right?
Mm,
I
mm,
think that's something that's very important, and
mm,
that's why personal brand becomes all the more important. That
mm,
if you create a personal brand for yourself, people will
mm,
remember you for many
mm,
a things that you do,
mm,
and maybe
mm,
sometimes they will also connect with you for something that they don't know you do, and
mm,
then you may be the one who provides a solution,
mm,
right?
mm,
Uh, Career advice: why would somebody come to me?
mm,
Yeah, just because I'm a senior person in the industry? No,
mm, mm,
because I connect with youngsters. So
mm,
career advice comes naturally to me.
mm,
And I've made a personal brand for myself today.
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
I do a lot of shows myself. I
mm,
anchor, I MC in my organization, outside my organization.
mm, mm,
I party, I socialize,
mm,
and all these put together, I think I've created a personal brand for myself today that in all of my facets of life, people will know me for something. And
mm,
for me, a simple question is why are you in this on this earth? And when
mm,
you die, what do you want people to die? Does anybody
mm,
want to die?
mm,
I give a very simple example, Swapnil.
mm,
अगर
mm,
आप अपने death bed पे हो, or maybe you are
mm,
dead, but
mm,
God has given you the ability to hear,
mm,
listen to
mm,
what people say. What would you
mm,
want to hear from people around you that day? Crying, of
yeah,
course, will happen, but other
yeah,
than that, what?
yeah. True. Correct.
So people should
Yeah,
say what a great soul he was. He helped
yeah,
me. He did this
yeah,
for me. And he
yeah,
was such a great knowledgeable guy. He was strong on this. He was strong on that. I don't
yeah,
think so anybody will want to hear that shit. Thank God he died.
yeah. Correct.
No,
Absolutely.
no. So I
Yeah,
think everybody wants to die by leaving somebody happy behind.
yeah,
And that happiness can come only if you have made a mark in someone's life. And that's only
yeah,
possible if you have built a brand for yourself.
yeah.
Otherwise,
True.
nobody will come to you if you're a silent guy sitting, however
Yeah,
knowledgeable you are, sitting in a corner, no
yeah,
brand for yourself.
yeah,
Nothing.
yeah.
Nobody will come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very, very nice way of putting it. So we actually, our company had developed a very nice model that I can't seem to recollect right now, but it was the acronym for it was PIE, right? Which is
Wow.
PIE. And I
Hmm.
remember the P for sure, which was about perceptions, helping people understand how you are perceived, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think a big part of building a personal brand revolves around I think the first thing that you spoke about, which is just carrying yourself out well, right? Taking the effort to, not dress in a fancy way, but at
Yeah,
least
it's
turn out well, right? In interactions so that, that's the first impression that you often make,
absolutely.
right? So don't be shabby in the way you dress. Take that effort of dressing decently well.
Make yourself approachable by 90% of the people. Maybe
Yeah,
10%
yeah.
will still not approach you even if you're dressed the
Yeah.
best.
Yes. And it's not, I keep sharing with people, and I'm sure you'd agree with me that a lot of things in India and across the world have become more expensive. But the one thing which hasn't become more expensive is clothes, right? And
Yeah.
it's very, very strange that today, if you go to a say a West Side or one of these brands, you'll get some excellent clothes at a very, very low cost, right? So today,
Yeah.
each and every person can really turn out well and make a positive impression for themselves on a day-to-day basis when
Absolutely.
you're doing your job, right? Don't just reserve good dressing for an interview day, right? Give people the pleasure of seeing you turning out well every day that you go into
Yeah.
work, right? I
Yeah.
think it's a certain, in a way, a certain sign of respect as
I,
well
I
to your
I think,
job that you take
yeah,
the effort.
one of the things that you said rightly was,
Yeah,
Swapnil, is about the way you carry yourself with
yeah.
your grooming. I
Mm.
think the second most important piece in the executive presence is the small talk that you make with people and connect
Yeah,
with them.
yeah,
Understand what the other person likes and dislikes are.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the safest bet for you was the Coke Zero, I think. You
yeah,
should do
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And the next
yeah,
time
yeah,
you
yeah,
meet me, I think the safest bet for you and me will be talking about MCing and theater. That's
yeah,
a common interest
yeah.
we have, right? And,
Absolutely.
and then we take off from there, and then we can
Yeah,
talk business
yeah,
later.
yeah, yeah. And it's so interesting. There's a very nice quote that says, right, every person must know everything about something and something about everything, right? And I always find that very fascinating. Every person must know everything about something and something about everything, right? Because again, if you want to build your brand in some way, I think if you are bereft of any general awareness, right, as to what's happening, it's very difficult for you to
Very
make
difficult.
that conversation that you're talking about through two people, right? And very interestingly, I'm a big fan of Zakir Khan, the stand-up
Oh
comedian.
yeah.
Fantastic. And you must watch this interview, some podcast that he did of
Mhm.
late, where he was just saying that every person must learn how to converse well,
Yes,
because he said just about everything in your life comes from your ability to converse, right? And I
absolutely.
thought that was so, sounds like such a simple thing, but it's so profound in some way, right? How do you build relationships through conversations? How do you
Absolutely.
resolve conflict through conversations, right? How do you, just about everything happens through conversations, right? So
Mhm.
the art of conversing well is art, and science of conversing well is so important from the point of view of whatever you may call executive
Yeah,
presence, personal
I don't
brand.
know if your listeners are,
Yeah,
most of them would understand Hindi,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
would actually translate
yeah,
it for
go
you.
on.
You remember the
Yeah,
Cadbury's ad?
yeah. Which
It
one are you
says,
talking about?
"बात करने से ही बात बनती है."
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
punchline.
yeah.
Only if you talk will you understand the value of conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that I think sometimes just, quite honestly, I hate small talk, right? I don't really like small talk at all. But I think I'm relatively good at having conversations with people because I don't go into small talk at all.
You
I'm,
you don't have
yeah,
to, you should not pretend to do a small talk, I would
yeah,
say.
yeah,
But if
yeah,
you really have a understanding or flair for some topic, you should
yeah,
start that. You
yeah.
should start
True,
that.
true, true,
If
true,
you
true.
don't know,
Because
you can always be quiet about it and say, sorry, I don't know about it.
yeah, 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 yeah. So just, since you spoke about the Coke Zero when I came to your office, it literally, when if I go to any client organization, Dhanpat, you will realize that there is something common that you hand with each one of those brands, no, in some
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So I was invited by Hyundai a few days back to, they had some learning conclave and they wanted me to be on the panel. So I went there, and Hyundai was the first car that I bought with my own
Wow.
money,
Wow.
right? Because it was a Hyundai Accent, and I know how much I, dreamt about that car before buying it, and the satisfaction that I had in that car after I bought it. But now I'll give
Mhm.
you a little bit of background, right? My, a car that I had before that, which was my father's, my car was a Maruti 800. So even
Mm.
Maruti is my client, right? So when I go and talk to Maruti, I genuinely have a connection there. And after my Hyundai, I bought a Honda. Are you getting my point of what I'm trying to say,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
आप अगर इसके बारे में थोड़ा सोचते हो, that you genuinely have a connect with so many different things,
True.
right? That you don't need to be fake about small talk, right? You don't need
Absolutely.
to fake anything. If you're authentic, I think people can really tell. No, what do you think? Huh?
This reminds me of my early sales days, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
My boss told me, have small talk with your client. Don't just get into the business, you know.
yeah.
So I was actually waiting at the MD's room in Singapore
Mm,
Airlines in
mm,
Chennai.
mm.
He had come down for a visit and I wanted to sell photocopiers to him, right? And it
Yeah,
was a big order that I wanted to bag.
yeah.
So I was sitting in his cabin and he was busy with meeting, I think. So I was just observing, what can I talk with this guy? Yeah, he's such a senior guy
Mm,
and I'm just
mm.
25 years old.
Yeah.
And I saw there was a lovely painting behind his
Mm,
desk, you
yeah,
know, and it was so beautiful to have those seven horses. I still remember that picture.
yeah, yeah.
Why I remember that picture is because the statement that he made to me after I complimented
Mm.
was that you're not the first person to tell me that this is a beautiful painting. Go ahead with business, please.
Mm.
I was like, oh God. He completely could see me through because I just said,
Yeah,
what a beautiful painting you have, lovely
yeah,
seven horses. And he was like,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But even
So
even actually on that note, right? Even having a good sense about who likes doing small talk and who doesn't like
yes,
doing small talk,
yes, yes,
that's so
yes,
critical, right? And
yes,
being
yes,
able to
yes.
sense that immediately and changing tracks, I
Changing
think
tracks, very
is a
important.
skill in itself, right? There's a very nice quote that says, "Wherever you are, be all there." Right.
Yeah,
So, when you're having a conversation, be all there. And the biggest gift that you can give somebody is the gift of your attention in some way,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
be very present in conversations. The minute you're very present in conversations, I think some magic starts
happens
happening in
automatically.
those. Okay, tell us a little about resilience. You spoke about my favorite point to start with. So tell us, how will a young person build resilience? What is the secret to it?
I think, see, somebody asked me, can you train on resilience? I was wondering, resilience is not a skill. It's a
Mm,
mindset, right?
mm,
Just like listening or time management.
mm,
Or stress management, for example, I don't know, can I train somebody on stress
mm,
management?
mm,
Stress is something that is
mm.
natural to you,
Yeah,
and you need to learn to manage it. I don't know whether it's a science or a skill, but yeah, over a period of time, I understood that there are people who can help
yeah,
you manage it
yeah,
rather than do away with it. So there's
yeah,
something called conflict management. Yeah, conflicts are
yeah,
to happen, and you need to
yeah,
manage them.
yeah, yeah,
Similarly, I think resilience is something that we can learn
yeah,
over a period of time, but yeah,
yeah,
but then you need to stand strong. I
yeah,
think that's the only word I have for being resilient.
yeah,
Yeah, uh, learn from failures.
yeah,
There are a lot of people who can inspire you in your career,
yeah.
but then in the beginning of your career, it's only some historical people, celebrities who have learned from resilience that you can look up to.
Mm,
Right from your Edison, who worked on the bulb. We all know the story of the 1,000 failures and then the one success that he made. Right.
mm,
So that's resilience in true sense for me. And
yeah,
when you look, and I'm just telling you as a matter of fact, about 1,000 times he failed. Imagine the
mm,
kind of pain that man would have gone through. A
yeah,
scientist and inventor, yeah,
yeah,
today whom we respect, and you are a youngster, a management trainee, engineering trainee who's just coming to organize, and you're getting bowled out in first ball.
mm,
It's
mm,
okay. It's
yeah,
okay. If you want to become a Mahendra Singh Dhoni or a Sachin Tendulkar, please stay there on the pitch for longer
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Yeah, start working on that. I think it's a skill that somebody can develop. But
mm,
like I told you, you'll have to learn to bounce back from challenges.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
go
I
back
think
to
that's
go
correct.
back to your drawing board. Go back to your
Yeah,
drawing board.
absolutely. I think lots of things. We could do a whole talk with both of us
Lots,
just
lots,
on this
lots, lots.
one
So many
one
stories
point.
that come to my mind about myself
Yeah,
having
yeah,
lost, come back. I
yeah,
was a goalless guy in my life.
yeah.
कोई लक्ष्य नहीं था मेरा जिंदगी में.
Mm,
I
mm,
never knew what I want to become. In fact,
mm,
everything has happened to me automatically. Me
mm,
getting into sales, me getting into training. These are
mm,
things that I never designed for myself. It's
mm,
happening by default. I don't know how. But then
mm,
everywhere I saw failures first.
mm,
Then I
mm.
bounced back.
Yeah.
And then today I'm happy that I'm on a show with Swapnil. Never dreamt of this. This is happening to me.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Very,
So
very
these are
good
some
to hear
things
that.
that people say, pinch me. Am I dreaming?
Yeah. I think, I loved your first point about resilience, and that's why I had a big smile on my face where you said historic reference, right? And that's
Mm.
why I think for a lot of young people and old people, right? Just this exposure that you can get to the stories of heroes that you see in different heroes or heroines that you see in different aspects of life. And if you do a little bit of study of each one of them, you will see a story of resilience, right? There's no
Yes.
other story that you're going to see. And if you do that across, because while growing up, I was a big fan of reading autobiographies, right? So I'd read autobiographies. And if you think of the one thing that is common across possibly all of it, is this word resilience. Yeah, and the ups and downs and your ability to deal with that. And therefore, if you do that, you realize that, hey, consciously or subconsciously, you start recognizing that this is a quality that I need. If I don't have this quality, or if I don't have this attitude or behavior, I'm not going to be able to make progress. A lot of it comes from just your exposure to a lot of
Yeah.
these things. And of course, there's a whole different story that we'll definitely do part two of this someday, and
Yeah.
and
I'll tell
continue
you,
convers. Yeah,
Swapnil, thanks for
yeah,
bringing that up. I will
yeah,
say autobiographies is one thing that will actually teach us. But while you also go out sometimes,
yeah.
just talk to some of those youngsters who are actually working at a very junior level in some organization. I'll tell you my recent
Mm,
example in Sri Lanka. There was a
mm,
guy in a restaurant serving me. and there was a challenge in my language there because Sinhalese is something that I don't know. So I was trying to speak in English and there was nobody who were able to converse there. This boy came up to me. He was just 27, 28 years old. And he started speaking to me in English. And I said, what are you doing here? He said, I'm a waiter here. When I spoke to him after billing, he said he actually was a founder of some startup and he lost money there. And why is he here today? He says, I'm wanting to fight back, bounce back. I want some money. I'm earning here and I'll go back and start again.
Yeah.
These guys are inspiration for me for resilience.
Of course. Amazing. Right. I think that's such a great point, right? Connecting back to also an earlier thing that you said about learning, right? And I think everybody knows something that you don't, right? And you must go into the world, right, in such a way that every person that you interact with knows something that you don't, and every person that you interact with has some gems of wisdom, both from his successes and his failures, that he can impart to you if you can have the right conversation, right, with them. If you can have a right conversation, you can extract that, which again helps you see the trend of life, right? That even the heroes that you may have across different different spheres of life have resilience as common, and so many people that may not have hero status currently, they also have resilience as the thing that is important, right? So yeah, I think that's a common point,
I
common
think
point that you see.
Swapnil, that's what the seniors say, that is my gut instinct that this guy will make a mark in his life. What is that instinct that they actually see in you? They see the resilience first. This guy bounces back every time. He will become something one day. And I truly believe that now.
I couldn't agree with you more, right? So I think, if I had to share, I'm a big fan of quotes and proverbs, as you would have discovered during this conversation, and for some reason I tend to remember them. But one of my favorite proverbs of all time is this proverb which says, "This too shall pass." Right? And I keep reminding myself of that through good times and bad times, right? Even when I'm having a fantastic time, I remind myself that this too shall pass. And even when something terrible is happening, I remind myself that this too shall
good
pass.
times, don't let that go on your head.
Be modest. Correct, all of it will pass, right? So one of the ways of being resilient, right, is if you have that framework in your mind that irrespective of what you think, however bad the situation, it will pass, right? So play the role of Rahul Dravid sometimes, where even if you're not making runs during that particular period, don't lose your wicket.
Don't lose hopes. Lose hopes.
Because the one person in a cricket parlance, if you follow cricket, that we would think of somebody who is resilient is somebody like Rahul Dravid. Right? Right. It's such a wall in the true sense of the word that he genuinely was. Right. That's very interesting. We've almost run out of time, thanks to you being you and possibly me a little bit having a lovely conversation. But I have another question to ask you, right? Okay. What are the big trends that you're seeing as being a part of corporate learning? What are the big trends that you've probably seen in corporate learning over the last 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. So, of course, last 3 to 5 years has been a big game changer for all of us. We went through a pandemic that we haven't seen in our past. So I think we have moved away from a lot of traditional ways of learning to a lot of technology-based and digital-based learning, right? So that's been one of my biggest learning for myself, that things can happen anytime, anywhere. So be ready. So agility is something that I would say has been my learning, and I think being an agile person in an organization would help you accept changes quickly and accept new technologies immediately. Gone are the days when we used to use the overhead projectors and those PowerPoint presentations. Now we all have a lot of new tools that we use, right? Yes, of course, e-learning is there. Your self-learning is there. But then, yes, be open to, I would say, a blend of different types of learning methods that come your way. And I think people are now more attracted towards simulation learning. They love gamified and gamification, unlike the days where they had a choice of getting into a classroom. Now, yes, it's limited, but yes, we will still get back to classroom. But I think the latest trend that I see is using of artificial intelligence in learning now, where a lot of adaptive learning is coming into play. And we know that it's still step one, phase one for artificial intelligence in learning, at least.
Got it.
The learning industry's got a long way to go, and I think we with people like you, I think we will go there faster,
Yeah.
and we need that stickiness for us to bring that digital savviness in people, so
Yeah.
that the learning is imbibed quickly rather than taking time. Because I remember curating learning paths for people was a nightmare in itself. And now it's like a click of a button, you have the whole curation done through artificial intelligence. Yeah. So I think, organizations are seamlessly now consolidating learning into business and also into your talent management. Everything is coming together now. And we can see that whole collaboration working.
Yeah.
And leaders are taking ownership of learning rather than
Yeah.
Dhanpat Jain or Swapnil today.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm glad about, that organizations, at least progressive organizations like ours, we have our leaders who come in the forefront and say that, hey, I want this for my people, get it done for me. I'm with
Got
you. I'll spare my people for this program. I want them to
Yeah.
learn all these things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they are there in the journey of helping people learn, develop,
Yeah.
and show career progression to their teams.
Yeah.
That's something that I believe is something that I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years happening.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. So shift to digital in a big way. Number two, simulation, gamification being something which people are finding interesting.
Yeah.
Number three, the use of artificial intelligence, which I'm assuming is a more recent phenomena, but that
Yes.
really learning and development people using that as an aid to learning. And
Yeah.
the fourth is the keen interest that business leaders
Yeah.
are showing towards L&D. Yeah, I think I would agree. The only thing I would add to that is, when COVID happened, a lot of L&D people would come and say that, hey, our classroom sessions ever going to happen again? Everything is going to move digital. And I would tell a lot of them saying, hey, the minute classroom sessions can come back, they're going to come back with a bang, right? The minute you can open them up, because and I not blame this, but I think there is an evolutionary reason why all of us like learning, in physical face to face or even virtual face to face, but
Mhm.
live, right? We have an evolutionary reason why we like, because we've always learned like that, right? We've
Exactly.
always learned,
Our
yeah.
education system has been that way, right? From our
Correct. No, and
childhood.
even not just educational, BJ. If you actually think of how we ever started learning, right? Even if you
Mhm.
date this back to 100, 200, 500 years
Yeah,
back,
yeah, yeah.
you always learned in these small groups live, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Was a very so. I think what I'm liking about the landscape of L&D today is there's very interesting physical classroom stuff happening. There's very interesting virtual classroom stuff happening. There's very interesting self-paced work that's happening, and there's very interesting use of artificial intelligence, right? And that's exactly what is required in a true like hybrid learning, right? You need to
Yes.
realize what works best in
Yes.
a classroom, need to realize what works best virtually,
True.
and be able to give people sometimes a blend of that, or sometimes just one thing in the right context, right? But I'm happy to see that evolution happening.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Great.
DJ, any ending note, anything that you'd like to share as we end this conversation?
What can I say? I think I have enjoyed my journey of being an L&D professional all my life.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I'm here today. I think I'm living my passion, and the passion is paying me. What
Yeah.
more could you ask for? And I
Yeah.
work for a great brand today.
Yeah.
Thanks to this brand that I am learning a lot. I'm meeting people like you, and I'm getting my own visibility, my personal brand, because I'm piggybacking on Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that this organization gives me that space to do that. You know,
Yeah.
I think if I have to tell this as a parting note to my listeners, work for brands that work for you.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful note to end on, Dhanpat. Thank you very much for this really engrossing conversation. It was very, very interesting. I had great fun while having it.
Same here.
Thank you very much, you and your company, for giving us this lovely piece of
Pleasure,
joy
pleasure always, pleasure
that I
always,
have.
Swapnil.
And thank you for coming on the CXO show. We love featuring India's most successful people, India's most successful
Thank you.
professionals like you, who
Thank you.
have done some commendable things
Thank
in their
you.
career.
Thank you so much. I'm
Thank
humbled.
you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.